All right. We're going to talk a little bit about digital monetization opportunities. And it was amazing that at 2:17 in the afternoon I could say that without messing it up. So I'm going to have the gang up on stage introduce themselves. And first up is Lynn. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Show me the money, right?
Should be.
I can do this. Okay, thank you, Dennis. And by the way, let's give him a round of applause. He does that. I've had to moderate for 25 years. We started our company right here in Indianapolis with the NFL Combine, and you do as good as anybody. I thought I was good, but you shame me now and everything like that. I'm Lynn Leishberg, president and founder of Sports Management Worldwide, online sport business. Started with an agent course after the Jerry Maguire movie. We have 30,000 alum from 63 different countries, and we have some graduates here that took motorsports. We do football, basketball, baseball, soccer, rugby, cricket, sports betting. We do it all. We try to give kids a chance, people a chance from 17 to 71 to work in sports. And motorsports, by the way, I'm here, I'm learning. It's an incredible industry with a bright, bright future. And doesn't it feel good just to be in the room post-COVID? So I'm just glad to be here. Thank you very much.
All right, next up on the stage. He didn't bring me any warm air from Honolulu, but I understand he has adopted me, so I'm going to be moving to Honolulu and staying with you just during the wintertime.
You're always welcome, Dennis. Yeah,
introduce yourself.
My name is Mikhail Suji. I'm a sports agent with Sports Manager Worldwide. I reside in Honolulu, Hawaii. Born and raised in Amsterdam, Holland. Moved to the U.S. in 2004. I played soccer professionally for about 9 years, and got into the agent business, and now here I am sitting in front of you guys. So thank you for having me here.
Well, welcome. Our next person is no stranger to RTBC. Mr. Wes Zirkle, introduce yourself, please, and kind of catch people up on what you've been doing since we've last talked over here.
Gosh, well, let's see. Before I get there, okay, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Wes. I don't know how this is going to play in this room, but I was Zach Brown's general counsel for 12 years at JMI. And before that, I worked in celebrity licensing and motorsports. My first ever motorsports deal was the Aerosmith car in the 2001 Indy 500. When Steven Tyler sang a national anthem and changed the words and made everybody mad. But in terms of motorsports activation, it was a very, very cool one. We got the Just Push Play album cover on that. If you want to know how the whole story behind that, I'll tell you afterwards. But then from there, I worked with Zach and the great folks at JMI for 12 years. And then, we went through an acquisition, and I had to spend a few years finding myself. And then, so what I've done since I've been here with you all is I started my own law firm. In 2001 during the pandemic. And so I know I'm a lawyer in a room full of non-lawyers, but I promise I'm pretty practical and business oriented, and we'll try. Okay, Allison's laughing as I saw this somewhere, but I've got some friends in the room who can vouch for that. But pleasure to be here with you, and I'll try to keep it as non-legal as I can.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, not only new to RTBC, but a new sponsor of ours here at the show. He'll be sponsoring the afternoon break from Digital Throttle. Brian, please.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Brian Robb, Digital Throttle. Founded Digital Throttle in 2009. We have two sides of our business. The first is we are a digital agency for racetracks, race promoters. Moto America, Jeff, who stood up a minute ago, is one of our clients. We place ads across any digital medium from connected TV to websites, search, social. We've talked about social a lot today. I'm also partners in cyclenews.com, one of the oldest motorcycle websites that's out there, so I can kind of see the world through two eyes. And then finally, we also sell ads for other websites. When I first started, actually, NHRA.com was our very first client, and we sold all the most of the display ads that you would see on NHRA.com.
Very cool indeed. Okay, Lynn, I'm going to start out with you. Online education, it's everywhere. It's become really big. but I love the way you guys are targeted towards motorsports, but it's more than just for beginners. So explain a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I've been a lifelong educator, 55. I had tenure at 30 and I left and went out in college athletics, and literally when I became a sports agent and the internet started up, and I started a course, How to Be an Agent, and my accountant, who knew nothing about sports, said you need to add more courses. I'm passionate. There's 8 billion people out there. As we watch the World Cup, that's a billion people. You go to the Super Bowl, 120 million. I watched this today. There's a lot of market out there, and now with streaming, sports betting, there's a revolution going on. All of our mentors, including Gary Ellis, are all people in the industry, not people with doctorates in kinesiology. But I look out here, we want more diversity. We haven't talked that much about it, not just women, color, culture. The 8 billion people out there, and the passion, whether you're in India, what esports has done to the industry, what sports betting's done. We're in a 2.0 revolution. And with post-COVID, there's opportunities. And when somebody comes to us, we make them do informational interviews. Some do 30, 40. We send Starbucks gift cards. But we have a database of over 200,000. But we're trying to be the go-to place, somebody that may not finish their college degree, that just is passionate about motorsport. How do I get involved? They just need a little guidance, just an introduction to the world. Because what we don't know, like somebody said in the last panel, there's many answers. But what we don't know for sure is we know nothing. And what I mean by that, the world is changing. I come here today, I was in baseball. Yes, you know, baseball's changing rules after 100 years. They're not getting the younger population. So I see the same thing here. What do we do to bring more vertical, more horizontal? It's a very fascinating time in the industry, and that's what we try to do, is keep up with the future.
And do a great job of it indeed. Mikhail, talk a little bit about your role again in a little more detail, and kind of how you got to where you are here with the help.
Well, I played soccer professionally for about 9 years, and when I moved to the U.S., my career came to an end. I went back to school, and so I got into to this business because I was always fascinated about the business aspect of sports, right? I mean, I was always on the pitch, and I had agents talk to me, good ones, very, very bad ones. So I had a bit of a mixture of experiences, and some of them had a bitter aftertaste, and some of them were, fairly decent. And I got a call from one of my former teammates in Holland, and he wanted to come here and play in the U.S. And I created a decent side network since I played here, and I was able to kind of guide him into Major League Soccer. And so one of my former teammates here took actually one of his courses, and he's like, well, is this something you'd be interested in? And I'm like, well, sure, why not? And took the course and took off from there. And how me and motorsport, I mean, growing up in Europe, I'm a huge Formula One fan. It's growing massively here in the U.S. Obviously, I represent a very talented young man, my race. Josh, you know him very well. His name is Elvis Rankin. He just secured the national title with Sebring, with Skip Barber, sorry. And 15 years. He's only 15. And he won the Formula 4 championship. And so we got him out to the UK, had several testing days with Argenti and Arden, all linked to Red Bull or Mercedes as well. And they offered him a seat. So now it's a tough part, right? Like we have, like Lori earlier said during lunch, what motorsport is somewhat missing in terms of the ball sports, right? So they have like academy play or minor leagues or the collegiate system, and that's just not here in motorsport. So it's kind of a pay-to-play type of situation. So for him to get that seat at Argenti, which he was offered, I have to find $500,000, right? To race for the season. So that's where the tough part comes in. So, but we're getting there, and it's very exciting. I mean, this kid is absolutely amazing. Good stuff.
My question, I think, might be the $1 million question. The silence, right? Brian, this is for you. I'm going to pick on you. And Lynn, I think you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, it's show me the money. Do you guys like money? That's a rhetorical question, by the way. All right? I hope so. I just want to make sure you guys are awake because this is about monetizing, right? Show me the money for real. And I can't think of anything better than making money while I sleep, right? That's the secret here. We don't get wealthy by trading hours for dollars. So when I think about what your company does, Brian, I think of I can make money while I sleep. And it's monetizing digital content. I'm a podcast host, and I have all this content. And I know for many people, including myself, I'm still always fascinated with cracking the code, right? Is how do I monetize all this content we have? We have these track owners that have gold mine of content. How do we turn that into dollars that is making money for us even while we sleep?
That's a $2 million question. When I started in this business, Facebook didn't have an app. It was accessed only through the web, and websites ruled the world. Fast forward to today, most website traffic is flat to down. You're working really hard to keep it flat. A lot of it's gone to mobile. In general, mobile ads pay you half of what a desktop ad is because they're just smaller. So the main thing to remember is a lot of people think about monetizing digital as how much web traffic do you get, how many banners can you show? And it's always a mathematical formula. It's really simple. In general, for banners, you'll make about $4 to $5 for every 1,000 people that see your ad. So if you go back and you know what your web traffic is, and you've got 3 ads per page, it really is kind of an Excel spreadsheet. I came up through the magazine side of the world where if you sold more ads, you just printed more pages. It was a beautiful business. You could have 10 subscribers and you can make a 1,000-page book, and you sold 1,000 pages of ads. In digital, you have to have traffic. Okay, so where are we at now? Websites aren't going up. How do I digitize? If you have an audience, you can create your own traffic. This is where social media doesn't work against you, it works for you. You now can go out and create eyeballs. When you create eyeballs on your content, Scott had a great idea about people posting photos at your track. When you create the traffic, you can monetize it. So what does that mean? Well, you can't really sell your posts on Facebook, but if you've got a title sponsor and every one of those photos that goes out has the title sponsor's logo into it, then now that sponsorship deal just got a little bit bigger. So a lot of the digital monetization is less about single ads that get seen. It's about selling these integrated packages with your local advertisers, your national advertisers. And instead of you saying, hey, I get 10,000 people at an event, you find a way to create 50,000 eyeballs on that sponsor's brand because it's people at the track, and then you've gone out and pushed it that day and the 3 days, 4 days afterwards. So I think that's how you can kind of create money that doesn't exist just naturally on your own website.
I hope everyone's connecting the dots here from the earlier conversation. It's the common theme here is make it as easy as possible for everyone else to market your product for you because it's free, as long as you can make it easy to do that. And sometimes that means doing infrastructure and creating dynamic and customized packages.
So one real quick question for Brian, and then I'm going to go to Wes after that. So NHRA, you mentioned them, and I know from when I did a podcast for Alexis DeJoria, once NHRA posted it, their traffic was huge because my hits went up considerably. How much traffic does a track or a series or even a driver or a podcaster need to actually make what I'd call real money using digital throttle?
It kind of goes back into that math issue, right? So if you've got a site, I came from the magazine world, one of the leading brands out there, had 500,000 people that came to it, it could maybe support like 4 people on staff because of the CPM. Everything in banner ads is sold as a cost per click or a cost per 1,000. So if you just do the math, if you're really good at it, you could sell your ads for maybe $4 or $5, or you net $4 or $5 per 1,000 people. So you just kind of do the math on that. It kind of gets tough. So that's where the integrated packages, where you can get other people involved, makes it pull out. But that's the downside of digital, is it is a lot more like direct mail than all us techie people would like to admit. It's kind of dollars per person. And so what you need to do is either create more people or create more ads per page, but then now you've got a site with 20 ads on it. No one likes that.
Wes?
So I'm fascinated by the question about making others promote your message. So, I represent a driver as well, Christian Rasmussen. And by the way, I'm jealous that you only have to find $500,000. Indy Lights is pricey.
That's just for one season.
Yeah, same here. And so the conversation is, well, how do we get that message out? How do we get that message out? And it was strange. He actually sought to be verified by Instagram, and that process wiped out his page, which became a panic, because that was one of the big cornerstones of our marketing. And by the way, it helps to have friends. We got it back. He reached out to Marcus Erickson, who got him to like a vice president of Instagram and got his page back. So friends help. But, so we started having that conversation, and it was my 15-year-old son who said, "You've got to be on TikTok." And sat there and explained to us how TikTok's algorithms work and how you can place content and it starts to catch fire and it shoots up. And then how you utilize that to make sure you stay there. And Chris and I are listening to him like, he's 15. And I was like, it's funny. He's like, I'm trying to stay current. I'm pushing 50 years old, but I don't consume this. I don't have that kind of time, right? And so it's really fascinating how you can't, somebody earlier said, you can't be half good at everything. You got to be really good at one. Finding that one and then riding that wave. And so but of course, then it's the content problem. What are we going to put on there? It's a different type of message and content than an Instagram. It's far more interactive. It's movies. Now we've got to go find an editor, which, by the way, might be an 18-year-old high school kid, because they're all really good at this stuff. But that's about trying to have other people pump our messaging up and keep his name up and in the front of the algorithms. Absolutely.
Mikhail, I've got a little different question for you. You talk about representing soccer players and doing racers. Which is tougher, but which is more fun?
Tougher, obviously, my Elvis, the race car driver, just because you have to raise so much money to, it's easy for me to call a team. I have a player, hey, can he come in for trial? And sure, it doesn't cost anything, but just to get a testing day, we talk about $20,000 to $30,000, right? That's not chump change, for some of these drivers, and you probably know. So yeah, it's definitely tougher, but a lot more satisfying when you get to that point. And but it keeps my job interesting. And to your point, right, it's promoting your athlete, promoting your clients, right? And it all has to do with like TikTok, Instagram, and digital monetization, absolutely. And if you have that right, if you catch that momentum, it just doesn't stop. It just keeps going up.
And it helps you guys get rides.
Yep.
They're all good. Who's going to resonate with marketers?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Very true. Okay, Wes, I'm putting you on the spot now. Some sports, again, you're talking about turning 50 and not understanding some of this stuff. I just turned 62, and there's some stuff that I'm really not too sure on, and one of them is NFTs and the whole, digital currency world that is kind of built off of this NFT boom that we saw in other sports. Some sports have tried to add a revenue stream by selling their NFTs. I mean, everything from the NFL to the NBA. NBA was going bonkers with this about 6-8 months ago. Is there a risk, again, tapping into your legal side, is there a risk to a driver or a series or even a racetrack if they figured out how to do an NFT? Is there a risk to their brand by getting involved with some of these alternative revenue stream ideas like NFTs?
The short answer is yes, of course, but let me back up a bit. So, like I said, because of my background at JMI, it's old school activation, right? It's about getting people to engage with your brand, and back in the olden days, that was $4 million display units, and we had to go rent spaces at tracks and hire people to move them around, and now we've got a blend of that because it's digital and also physical, but it's about creating those touch points. And so, representing athletes like I do, there was that 6 to 8 months ago stuff when NFTs, when Tom Brady launched Autograph, which, and somebody can correct me, but as far as I can tell, is basically a digital baseball card. Kind of lame, if you ask me. And they were going for a lot of money though because they were early. I was getting a lot of these inquiries about, hey, does Danica Patrick want to do an NFT? Does Christian want to do an NFT? And it's like, why? What for? And that was the question a lot of people had trouble answering. And then a group reached out to me, and the problem is the technology is far more complex, but it was founded by, if you're a hockey fan, the famous Boston Bruin, Bobby Orr, his son, who's a hockey agent, has co-created this company. They want to create an interactive two-way communication between athletes and their fans, where Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, it's a one-way communication. They want to be able to create, well, unless you answer your DMs and there's all kinds of pollution in there, right? So they're trying to create a more interactive environment, and that's more interesting to me in terms of an environment I can really kind of control and kind of de-risk that. But one of your real problems, so you got a couple issues. So you can, in terms of risk and harm, if you partner with the wrong people and the NFT goes bust, or you have an FTX type situation, you're in real trouble. At the end of the day, I don't think the lawsuits against Tom Brady and all the folks that appeared in Super Bowl ads for FTX, I don't think it goes anywhere, but they're still brought up in it. They still have to pay money for lawyers. They still have to address it. So you got to be careful about your partners. But secondarily, you've got to be careful about your messaging and how that plays on the fans, because one of our concerns, frankly, was that it was going to look like a money grab. Oh yeah, okay, you're just creating this so you can get rich. And it's like, well, on the one hand, that's why we're race car drivers, right? I mean, we have a talent, we want to make a lot of money, but you have to be, we haven't moved forward with it because we couldn't figure out how to create a compelling package for our fans without upsetting them and creating something of value and lasting value. The other piece, Dennis, I'll mention is getting content is difficult. Because in the racing space, of course, other leagues too, but we don't have collective bargaining because we're not, racers aren't employees. They can't collectively bargain. They can't go get a cut of media rights. So networks own moving footage, and Penske Entertainment owns pictures taken by IndyCar, and so none of the content's ours. And so I kept going to the NFT people, going, "What are we going to put in the NFT?" Like, well, you give us content. I'm like, I don't have any content to give you. There's nothing, by the time the leagues, the tracks, the TV, and the teams take all their cut, there's nothing for us to give. And so there's a lot of challenges with just saying, oh, just launch an NFT. It's not that simple. So there's risk in terms of financial exposure, of personal exposure, in terms of targeting the wrong people. There's also risk in terms of just not giving people what they want, and it's lame, and it fizzles out.
Is there more of a risk to athletes in auto racing because they usually are representing a brand on the side of their car if this thing fizzles?
Well, everybody is subject to morals clauses. Kyrie Irving just lost his Nike deal, rightfully so. But he's still playing basketball. Any race car driver gets tangled up like that, they just lost their ride forever. Nobody's going to touch them. So yes. You have to be very, very, very careful.
Questions from the audience? Anybody got a question for our group? If not, I have plenty. Lynn, I want to ask you, what's been the most satisfying thing about running sports management worldwide?
Thanks for asking. I got to be honest, I started with one student in dial-up Yahoo, and then we had two. To see the growth, and my wife's a partner in my company, but in watching higher education fumble right now, I mean, they're in trouble. The price point, the bankruptcy or the student loan debt. Sports is a weapon of mass construction. It may sound corny, but it is a substitute for war. And if you look what we've gone through the last 3 years in our world, and to see what sports can do, including back to the Iran and USA World Cup, just for a moment. I tell my students, go global or go home. With the internet and online education, it gives a chance for people. Access to opportunity democratizes diversity. So the most gratifying thing for me is anybody that wants to work in sports, whether they want to be an agent, social media, marketing, sports betting, analytics, digital video editing, there's opportunities. And getting paid for your passion. Yeah, we want to make money, but you also want to get paid for your passion. Everybody here today is in their passion. They're coming to this. They don't have to come to this. They're coming to this. So it's gratifying to give people a chance to get paid for their passion. That's just my simplistic bottom line here. Let's be happy, let's have fun, and let's make money. That's my story. Thank you.
And things have changed, though, over the years.
We change every week. I tell my students, I like when you ask the question, I tell them I have to do a Zoom chat every week. If you have no questions, you have all the answers. And if you have all the answers, why would you come to this? Puts them on the spot. Got them. I scored, right? Thank you very much.
And you have some great experts that...
They're all experts. And by the way, none of them have a doctorate. Nothing gets higher ed. I'm Dr. Lashbrick, kinesiology, 206 bones. Now I teach 206 ways how to make a living. I call it an out-of-body experience. But you can't teach motorsports being in the classroom. You can't teach to be an agent being in the classroom. You can't. It's just the world is changing, and online's here to stay. And COVID came, I used to say you could drink beer in my class because I believe in having fun. When COVID came, we said no mask, bring a flask. Why do we do that? If you're not having fun, you're not learning. My God. Thank you. You got me fired up. You ought to take a class.
I like that.
Wait, I got to ask a follow-up. You have some of the best one-liners ever. But there's one where I think, Wes, you may have leaned forward. Go blow or go home?
Go globe or go home.
Globe.
Global.
Oh, okay.
Go.
Woo, okay.
No,
Boy, we went there.
And I just came up with a new one because I'm wired differently. Make a track attract. No pun intended. That's pretty good. Make a track attract. I think it's pretty good. You can have it. Thank you.
It's a Linism. He is creating
They didn't get it.
Linisms.
Nobody got it. Go global or go home. You can't survive, including you, all out here, you people, as Ross Perot once said. But you can't, you've got to think globally. I don't care if you're in a little town in Michigan. With the internet, I have students from 163 different countries. The commonality, it's a subject they understand. It makes no difference in language. That's why sports is so powerful. But wherever your venue is, and I want you to come, I want you to have fun and drink a beer. But for those that can't, let them watch. Get excited. Buy the t-shirt. And that's why go global or go home. I don't think you can survive. We're an American-based company, but we're a global company. So that's my point.
Got it.
Does that blow you away? No pun
I'm glad I
intended?
cleared that
There
up. I'm
you
like,
go.
did
Okay.
anyone
Sorry
else?
about that.
Okay.
Hey.
Did anyone else misunderstand?
We get a little racy in the afternoon, but I thought we were getting a little
It is.
racy.
I'm like, wow.
You're the only racist industry. Get it?
There
Racy.
you go.
It's racy. It's a pun. It wasn't funny.
And
I
you're
gotcha.
not kidding about going global, because there are audiences out there
Yeah.
that you have no clue. Here I am doing a little radio show
Yeah.
in Danville, Illinois.
Yeah.
And I got an email from the Finnish Lapland,
Yeah.
where they have this system of antennas strung in the tree, and because they're up so high geographically, they can pick up Danville, Illinois
Yeah.
on AM radio in Finland. So
Good
we got
story.
an audience in Finland that can listen to us.
Yeah.
It's
Good
crazy.
story.
Absolutely
That's
crazy.
a great story. Thank you.
Okay, Mikhail, what is the most satisfying thing about being a sports agent and, helping these folks reach their dreams?
Well, I love sports. Every sport's across the board. Well, not every sport, but most of them. And being able to help my clients to achieve their dreams, right? I want them to focus. You know what? You just do your thing, do your sport. Don't worry about the business side of it. That's why you have me and Wes for, right? Sometimes easier said than done, because we do deal with a lot of pressure. But I think that's just being involved in having somebody trust you this much with, basically the livelihood. Like, I'm trusting you to, to manage my career. And, when somebody gives you that responsibility, you cannot mess it up. Because
All right,
you will not
Wes.
recover from it.
Same question for you. You've done a lot in your career, but how cool would it be, especially for your younger clients who are just climbing up, to see them get to the big leagues?
Oh, well, it's a dream, and you touched on it. It's incredibly rewarding. It's also extraordinarily stressful, because at least I'm sure you do. But you feel a personal responsibility if they, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I try to get Christian to come, but he's on his way back to Denmark today, and because I wanted to tell the story with him in present. But his accountant is Brent Cox, who's floating around here, and Brent and I, we did an early, he came to us and we did a pro forma. Okay, if you take sponsorship, you take investment, blah, 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 and here's how this is going to play out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we just had a business conversation, and we left, and he said, that was really interesting. I'm like, what do you mean that was interesting? I was like, yeah, I didn't know any of that. I'm like, wait, you moved to the United States at 18 years old, and you didn't know any of this? He's like, nah. Like, just hoping it's going to work out, huh? He's like, yeah. That's stressful. He knows nothing. I mean, he's an extraordinary driver. But the pressure of saying, okay, they don't understand what the business of it, and that's now on me, on you, that's a burden. So to answer your question, I'm going to say when he makes it. I mean, I'm probably going to bawl. Because I don't charge him a dime. My wife, she rolls her eyes, and he's my pro bono project. He can't afford me. He needs me. Okay, fine. 2 years of work for free. I have no idea how much that's cost me, but it's worth it. And so yeah, if you see him start the Indy 500, I'm going to bawl like a baby. I know I am.
I know that feeling because with one of my media coaching clients who's working his way up the Indy series, I've got a very easy bonus plan working for me. When he wins the Indy 500, I get to sip the milk. So that's how I can relate to that.
I asked him, I said, I'm just on the grid for the start. Okay, buddy? Yeah. He's like, you got it.
It's a good bonus to get in your contract, let me tell you. Brian, one thing that I have kind of looked at Digital Throttle, and I've had an similar experience working with a system like yours back when I was doing some live racing, and it led to some sponsorship opportunity coming to me because they saw some brands on my website that I didn't secure. They were secured by a third party. But sometimes having some of those extra brands on your website can make you look like you're an even bigger deal than you are.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah, keep in mind that everybody who's serious about digital advertising, they can see where their traffic came from. So if you're a racetrack, if you're an organizer, and if you're working hard to send that advertiser or potential advertiser traffic, they will notice. They'll be looking at their stats one day and go, who's this website or who's this, brand I'm getting all this traffic from? And that's what leads to a lot of these phone calls. The challenge nowadays is you just have so many platforms. And so, that's the challenge for all of us. But I get asked this question a lot, just in terms of technology. I'm of the age where I started off where the fax machines were still that was the high-tech world. At the end of the day, it's still advertising. So brands are still looking to get in front of people. It's just the pipes have changed. So if you're somebody who grew their business or grew their track this way, that hasn't changed. It's just gone from local TV and radio to Sirius and Spotify and TikTok. There's people who can help you get there. Shameless plug. Or find people that can do that for you. So even though we might not be users of TikTok ourselves, if you're a fisherman, you go where the fish are biting. Same thing as if you're trying to monetize your website or your traffic or your brand, you can get there. Just get yourself some help. Don't feel like you have to figure it out because it's There's a lot of stuff out there.
And you're right about advertisers being able to follow the trail. Because years ago, I was just being goofy. I had a real good following on Twitter. And I posted a goofy picture with a picture of some Hormel chili on my shirt. And I said, oh, thank you very much, Hormel, and tagged them for messing up my shirt. Well, because it was just kind of goofy the way I worded it and everything, it went crazy. The next thing you know, I get a private message from Hormel, and they had mentioned also, they were playing back on Twitter as well, saying, hey, we've got a new formula for our chili that's thicker. We want to send you a case to try it. And just playing back and forth, they ended up sponsoring the podcast that I was doing. All from a goofy picture, so you just never know. But it was getting like, people were retweeting it, and it got all the, I don't understand why. But of all the things that I tweeted, there were like 100,000 impressions of this, and Hormel paid attention and sponsored my podcast that I was doing as a result. So everybody's watching, and there are ways to maximize that.
We're all going to go out and spill something tonight just to see if it works.
I actually tried that with other brands, and it didn't work. I couldn't even get a free pizza out of Monocles.
You've been labeled a stain by the industry.
I couldn't even get a stain removal company to work with me on that. Getting back on track, Lynn, how has social media, how has that changed the landscape of promotion for what you do?
So my wife would be the one that should be up here. She does all our social media, and we have a young staff back in Portland, and all. It's just amazing what they know. As we all up here know, we learn from our kids, and it's fascinating. But we live off social media. I tweet every day. My new saying, I do 10-second tweets, and I say, I have to go to the MLB winter meetings. It's not a job if you have to go to the MLB winter meetings. It's not a job if you have to attend the Super Bowl. It's not a job if you have to go to the motorsports conference, and that's my whole point. So we have our own brand. We've worked hard on it. We're humbled. We're not there yet, and we're privileged to be invited here. Tim Frost, and we're friends with a lot of people in sports. And I'm going to Raleigh tomorrow for track or soccer. So 3 sports in 1 week. That ain't bad for an old 74-year-old that hated soccer growing up, now a season ticket holder. And my son owns a soccer team in Las Vegas. So I failed as a dad, but not really. Thank you.
Mikhail, how has social media changed how you do your job to try to help promote your athletes?
I mean, social media, the power of social media it's unbelievable. So I have 2 clients. They're a couple, and they're deep free divers. And what they post on the social media, the imagery is absolutely phenomenal. And I post it on our website, and randomly I get an email from a casting department from Universal Studios. I can finally talk about it because it's coming out. But they were like, hey, your clients, we've seen their videos on Instagram, and what they post is absolutely phenomenal. And but one of them is actually also an instructor, so he teaches how to deep free dive. And they're like, well, can we set up a Zoom call? I'm like, sure. So we set up a Zoom call, and as we were waiting for one person to come in, it just had its initial JC on it. And I'm like, okay, well, are we still waiting for them? And it was James Cameron. So they basically asked me and my clients if they're willing to train their entire cast on how to hold their breath in the water, how to equalize, and so they got to work on the film, the new film that's coming out in the next couple of days. So and that's the power of social media. And I didn't even do anything for it. I just reposted it, put it on my website. That was it.
Did you spill chili on your shirt? That would have helped.
Yeah. But that's, I mean, just pure coincidence. Yeah. Pure coincidence.
I have a really important question, Dennis. Lynn, do you get tired of people saying to you, show me the money?
No, that's right. It brought us out of the closet. And to be honest with you, nobody knew what an agent was. My wife, I was starting a class, and we did an ad with Mel Kiper. You don't have to be a lawyer. Sorry, lawyer. You don't have to be a lawyer to be an agent. We had lawyers call up threaten to sue me. And to this day, you don't have to be a lawyer to be an agent. So no, I'm a rebel. I don't care. No.
Rebel.
I never get tired of any of that. Show me the money.
Would you guys be up for the thing? Like, how about we ask Lynn? We have an icon on stage here. You guys open for it? Show
Not
me
an
the
icon.
money.
Yeah, right.
But it's true though. When people ask me, "So what are you doing?" I'm a sports agent. Like, what? Like Jerry Maguire? I'm like, yeah.
That's all you have to say.
That's it.
Like, oh, okay.
All right.
Show me the money.
Show me the money.
It's a great reference.
Wes, the final thought.
Well, the challenge, like I said, is, and I commented on earlier, is getting older, is trying to keep up with everything that's happening, and paying attention to the mediums that are going to be the most effective for your clients, and they have different needs, which means, gosh, you probably start, getting some consultants to help us, because it's just a lot of work. But I think the most important thing is for anybody who's online in digitals to be 100% authentic, because people can sniff that out if you're not. And that's been our hesitancy, to go in the NFT market, for instance, because we don't know how we can portray an authentic message that will resonate with our fans, that they're not going to go, it's all about money, And so, it's the social media thing. I think it's good and bad. Definitely, there's a lot of opportunity, but the challenge is that a lot of it is random. A lot of it is, gee, can my son come up with an idea for Christian to catch fire by the right people? That's not a business plan, right? It's not a business plan to say, I'm going to go be Insta famous. But people do that. Blows my mind, but people do that. And so, for me, it's like, it's a tool. It's not the means to the end. We're going to be authentic. We're going to be who we are. We're going to, if we use social media, it's like you did, a targeted media campaign. Like we have like any business needs to have a marketing campaign and figure out what fits with their marketing campaign. And then you're going to do those things that work, and you're going to ignore the other things, because we can't be too thin, we can't be doing too many things, and we're just going to be authentic and portray the message we need. And none of that was legal, right? But that's a very real aspect of whether you're representing a brand, a company, an athlete. It doesn't matter. They've got to be authentic to themselves and be that way in real life and online in the same way, because people sniff it out.
Brian, a final thought.
I think I'll just build on what I said earlier about, think of yourselves, if you're a racetrack or a race promoter or an organization, think of yourself like an ad agency. People sponsor, whether it's turn one signage or a full race event, they sponsor racing because it's exciting, it's outdoors, it's family oriented, it brings people into the seats. They're coming to you because they want that association. If you can supersize what you're doing for them by activating some digital, don't forget YouTube is actually the largest social media platform. It's streaming TV for anyone under age 30. That's really where they go first. If you can think of yourself as now like a mini agency where you've got a sponsor and now you're going to sell something bigger than what you had before because you're going to get them 10 times more eyeballs on whatever you activate digitally, I think that's a great way to create some additional revenue. It's not going to replace ticket sales or whatnot, but it's good money to help pay the bills.
All right, what have we learned from this group? Well, we learned that no matter how you try to monetize your business online, you got to be authentic or it will not work. We also learned that motorsports is a heck of a lot more fun than anything else other than other sports. You're never too old to learn something new, and I'm a good example of that. I've had like 6 careers since United Airlines got rid of their weather department. And finally, I'm going to make this plug for our sponsor, Digital Throttle. Using a service like Digital Throttle as part of your marketing campaign, it's good business because that's some other revenue that you would not have been able to find perhaps on your own. Let's give them a big round of applause, please. It is time for our afternoon break, and that is brought to you by our friends at Digital Throttle. Yes?